So what? Yeah, it's so fine, right? Yeah, I mean, I can hear myself loud.
Dean, Mr. Yu, Katerina, Rena, and David. I saw David around a little bit earlier. I hope he can be found. So, oh, please, yes. There we go. Oh, there you are. You can be found right in your seat. Okay. Hi, Irina. Well, let's get started. We're here live, and I believe this session is being live streamed as well. So good afternoon, and welcome to the Energy Efficiency Hub's special event, Renovating Buildings to Raise Energy Performance, Cases from Around the World. I'm Jonathan Sinton. I'm head of Secretariat for the Energy Efficiency Hub. This is a platform for governments to exchange best practices in the design and implementation of energy efficiency policies and programs. The aim of this session is to examine close up just a small sample of the great variety of approaches to improving energy efficiency of existing buildings, and to see what common themes arise under diverse circumstances. Our session today is also a window into how the Hub works. The members share how they're approaching specific policy issues, then engage in conversation to draw lessons that can inform their respective domestic policy processes. I'd like to thank the IEA for giving us the opportunity to hold an event at their 9th Global Conference on energy efficiency, and for the ongoing close collaboration with and hosting of the Hub Secretariat. And of course, a warm thanks to the conference's co-host, the Government of Kenya, represented at this session by the Ministry of Energy's Secretary for Renewable Energy, Engineer Isaac Kiva. He'll be giving opening remarks momentarily. And after that, I'm delighted that the Energy Efficiency Hub's Vice Chair, Mr. Song Changqing, Deputy Director General in China's National Development and Reform Commission, will give our keynote address. Then Mel Slade, Senior Program Manager at the IEA, will set the scene before we dive into our panel discussion. Each of our 6 panelists will tell us about examples of a policy or program their country has implemented, and then have an opportunity to ask questions of each other. Hopefully that will be dynamic. Presentations, we'll need to keep it short because, as we all know, our schedule is a little compressed today. From Brazil, we have Agnes da Costa, Director for Regulation and Power Sector in the Brazilian Electricity Regulatory Agency. From Canada, we have Dr. Dean Haslip, Director General at the Office of Energy Efficiency, Natural Resources Canada. From China, we have Mr. Yu Shanchuan, who is the Division Director for International Science and Technology Cooperation at the Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development. From Germany, we have Ms. Katharina Zalb. She's a Policy Officer at the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action. From India, coming back onto the stage now, we have Ms. Reena Suri, Executive Director of the India Smart Grid Forum. And for Kenya's case study, we're joined by Mr. David Mutisia, Immediate Director for Renewable Energy, heading energy efficiency at the Ministry of Energy. We look forward to hearing from each of you very soon. And now, please welcome Secretary Kiva to open our session. Secretary Kiva.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. It is a pleasure for us to be here. It's a very important session. We're talking about one of the areas which has been highlighted as a key focus area. And ours is just to give some opening remarks and welcome. And then we look forward to this very great panel, which is going to talk to us at a time like this. I know some of the colleagues could be held up in other meetings, but it's good that they can also be able to follow online. So the energy performance and climate resilience of buildings are central to Africa's future energy needs and the clean energy transition. The continent is set to embark on one of the biggest expansions of building floor area in the world in the period to 2050, with the residential building stock projected to double, reaching almost 50 billion square meters. The building sector is the dominant energy consumer in Kenya and accounted for about 74% of total final energy consumption in 2020. Residential buildings are by far the largest energy consumer among all the sectors, accounting for nearly 3/4, 72% of total final energy consumption in 2020. Over the next few years, the total building stock in Kenya is expected to continue to grow from approximately 37 million square meters in 2018 to a projected 47 million square meters by 2025. This growth will bring additional increase in energy demand, highlighting the need but also the potential for improving sector efficiency to meet longer-term clean energy and electricity access targets. It is important to note that there is a considerable residential housing deficit of 2 million units in Kenya, which has led the government to prioritize affordable housing initiatives. To improve the energy efficiency of the building stock, Kenya is seeking to enhance the energy performance of new buildings and improve the energy performance of existing buildings. The Kenya National Building Code 2022 emphasizes key energy efficiency actions, including the incorporation of natural lighting, natural cooling, and ventilation in building design, and adopting environmental design concepts to minimize heat gain and improve cooling efficiency. The code requires building owners to prioritize energy efficiency and install the use of renewable energy sources as provided for under the Energy Act 2019. As Kenya looks to drive forward this clean energy transition, following the impacts of the global pandemic and energy crisis, there is growing role for energy efficiency in delivering benefits that can ensure affordable, reliable access to electricity while supporting greater integration of renewable energy technologies. Mobilization of investments to address energy efficiency in buildings, appliances, clean cooking, and electricity system losses will be key to building reliable modern energy systems that can help Kenya develop its economy. Over the past decade, the government has also placed a growing focus on promoting best practice for energy management in buildings. In 2012, Kenya adopted energy management regulations, introducing requirements for energy audits, implementation of energy-saving measures, and concepts of energy service companies. In 2021, a revised version was published by EPRA, noting that only 43% of facilities covered by the regulation and carried out energy audits between 2012 and 2020. The draft regulations propose several specific requirements that companies will need to comply with, including energy audits. Every owner of a designated facility with an annual energy consumption of more than 180,000 kilowatt hours is required to undertake an energy audit and designate an accredited energy manager. Facilities are required to conduct energy audits over every 4 years to assess their energy consumption patterns and identify opportunities for energy efficiency improvements. The other compliance was on energy management plans and also on reporting and disclosure. Key challenges include the high cost of efficient appliances, low enforcement of building standards, lack of an energy use index and green certification, few skilled professionals in energy efficient design, and limited access to technologies and research. Targeted policies, investments, and capacity building are therefore essential to advance Kenya's energy efficiency and achieve sustainability goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary Kiva. And with that, let's move on to our keynote. I'd like to welcome Deputy Director General Song Changqing to the podium, please.
各位同事， 大家好，我是来自中国国家发展改革委。作为 eHub 的创始成员和副主席我想首先感谢肯尼亚能源和石油部、国际能源署为本届全球能源大会召开提供的重要支撑，也感谢eHub 的秘书处为举办这一专题研讨会所做的工作。
Hello. So dear colleagues, I'm Song Changqing from the National Development and Reform Commission of China. So as a founding member and the vice chair of the eHub, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Kenya's Ministry of Energy and Petroleum and the IEA for their important support in holding this global energy efficiency conference special events. I would also like to appreciate the Energy Efficiency Hub Secretariat for their hard working in organizing this special events.
中国政府始终高度重视节能工作，一以贯之地坚持节约优先方针，将节能工作作为推进碳达峰、碳中和、促进经济社会发展、绿色转型的重要抓手。同时呢，积极参加多边、双边的能效合作。牵头推进eHub下最佳节能技术和最佳节能实践工作组的有关工作，是全球能源节约和用能效率提升的重要参与者和贡献者。
The Chinese government has always attached great importance to energy conservation, consistently adhering to the principle of conservation first, and we take energy conservation as an important measure to achieve carbon peaking and carbon neutrality, as well as promote comprehensive green development and the sustainable development of society.
建筑是能源消耗和碳排放的主要领域之一。在刚刚结束的这个代表团团长的闭门会议上，多个国家的代表团团长都提到了建筑节能这个问题，可见呢，大家对这个领域的工作非常的关心。那么近年来，中国新建建筑的能源利用效率在逐步的提升，对既有建筑的节能降碳改造呢，也在深入的实施，建筑用能结构呢持续的优化。2021到2023这3年期间呢，我们完成了城镇既有建筑节能改造超过了3亿平方米，公共机构单位建筑面积能耗下降3%，但是呢，由于中国的建筑规模总量呢是比较大，相关的能耗和排放的呢总量仍然较高，节能降碳呢这个潜力呢巨大。近期呢，中国出台了加快推动建筑领域节能降碳的工作方案，聚焦提高建筑领域的能源效率，降低碳排放水平，部署了12项重点任务，提出了2024、2025年再实施既有建筑节能改造面积2亿平方米以上。一会儿呢，我们来自这个中国住房和城乡建设部的同事将会为大家做详细的介绍。
As you know, China is actively participating in bilateral and multilateral cooperation on energy efficiency. We lead the task group of the best energy conservation technology and the best energy conservation practice, top 10 group in the eHub. China is also an important participant and contributor to global energy conservation and energy efficiency improvements. Yes, as we know, building is one of the main areas of energy consumption and carbon emissions. In the closed-door meeting just finished this morning, lots of ministry and head of delegation discussed the importance of energy efficiency in the building sector. In China, we also think the energy efficiency of building is a very important thing. So we work a lot to improve the energy efficiency in building sector. We support the energy saving and the carbon reduction renovation of existing buildings. The structure of the energy conservation in buildings has been optimized continuously from 2021 to 2023. The energy saving renovation of urban area buildings has exceeded 300 million square meters. The energy consumption per unit area of public institutions has decreased by 3%. However, due to the large scale of the buildings, the total energy consumption and the carbon emission are still very high, and the potential for energy conservation and carbon reduction is still large. So recently, we just published an action plan to accelerate the energy conservation and the carbon reduction in building. So we focus on improve energy efficiency and reducing carbon emission in the sector of building, and we also plan 12 key tasks. We hope that through the energy saving renovation of existing buildings over 200 million square meters from 2024 to 2025 to improve the energy efficiency and reduce carbon emission in building area. So later today, my colleagues from Ministry of Carbon, Householding and Urban Rurals will give a detailed explanation.
EHAB 设立的初衷啊，就是要建立一个国际性的合作机制，为各国提供交流工作的经验、提升工作能力的平台和渠道。我们期待啊，通过我们大家共同的努力，这一目标能够逐步的实现。今后呢，中方还将积极的支持 EHAB 的秘书处啊，举办更多的交流活动，也希望能有更多的国家呢能够加入到 EHAB 这个大家庭，共同把 EHAB 建设成为更有影响、更有成效的国际合作平台，为全球加强国际能效治理、积极应对气候变化呢做出更大的贡献。谢谢大家。
As we all know, the purpose of the Energy Efficiency Hub is to establish an international cooperation program which provides platform and channels for countries to exchange their experience and improve capabilities in energy efficiency. So we also hope to have more in-depth exchange and cooperation through such kind of workshop. China will actively work with the chair of the Energy Efficiency Hub and the Secretariat of the Energy Efficiency Hub to organize more such kind of workshops. We hope that more countries can join the Energy Efficiency Hub to collaborate on a more impactful and effective platform of international cooperation on energy efficiency. So we believe this will make a great contributions to the global efforts on strengthening international collaboration on energy efficiency and addressing the issue of climate change. Thank you all.
期待听到大家精彩的发言，谢谢。
With you have a very wonderful discussion and presentations. Thank you.
Is this on now? Okay, thanks. Thank you, Deputy Director General Song. I think both China and Kenya's experience shows that energy efficiency has an important place in overall national strategy for socioeconomic development, and with expanding building sectors, that is, of course, even more crucial. Now I'd like to turn to my friend and colleague, Mel Slade, to set the scene for the case studies. Mel.
Thank you, John. Back to this one now, sorry.
Try.
Is it? I can't see it. Good. Thank you. Okay, so good afternoon. I'd just like to add my welcome to this session on behalf of the IEA, and to thank you all for taking time out of busy schedules to join this conference. As you will know, at the IEA, our constituency is policymakers, and our role is to share best practice and advise how to design and implement effective policy. And that's why we put together our policy toolkits to show governments what's possible, because it's already been done somewhere. And that's a really powerful message. When you're looking to see what you can do, it's take examples from others. And of course, that's what this session is about, in particular in the terms of existing buildings. And we've talked a lot over the last day and a half about the global pledge to double the rate of improvement of energy efficiency. And of course, existing buildings in particular, are one of the big areas where we have to take a lot of action in order to achieve the savings that we need to see. The same, it depends where you are in the world, of course, as to whether it's new or existing buildings that you might focus on, but they're both extremely important, and they both have their challenges. The challenges vary from around the world, but it's always possible to take lessons from one to another. So one of the things we find with buildings, of course, is it's a very complicated sector. There are multiple stakeholders. We have to consult with planners, with people who produce materials and components of buildings, with designers, with the builders, with the end users. So it's an extremely complex field, and that makes the sharing of experience even more important. But we can't cut and paste. So a session like today, where we can hear of successful examples, is a really important way to go forward. We have in our doubling toolkit, which we've recently published, we use several examples for buildings, but I just quote one which is from a hub member just briefly, because I think it's a nice setting of the scene for the way we say that you need to use regulation, information and incentives, our key policy tools. We need to use them together. We need to design those policies together, because what we often see is that governments have some of each of those, but they have been rolled out at a different time with different partners, with different objectives, and they can actually conflict. They don't even build on each other. They can actually make things worse. So I'll just take the example of Australia, where there is a very well-known technique, system called Neighbours for measuring the performance of existing buildings. So it's not a design code, it's a real measurement process for existing buildings. That measurement process, that star rating that you get through that process, then allows you to declare what the rating of that building is. That's just one thing, it's one part of the system. That same Neighbours rating is used in government procurement programs, in government tenancies and lease arrangements. And it's used in various parts of the system. In some places it's used for financial incentives for buildings. So you've got a single measurement technique on which the regulation, information and incentives are all built. So I'd just like to give that as an example of what we think is a really good policy package. But we will be hearing of many others in the course of this session. So thanks once again for inviting me to just say a few words, and I look forward to your debate.
Okay, thank you very much, Mel. Now we will continue this session, all of us, from a seated position now. So let's go straight into the case studies. Let's go by alphabetical order of country, if we may. That puts the spotlight on you, Agnes. So if you would like to speak, please go ahead.
Hello. So it's a pleasure to be here and to share the experience. Yesterday I had the opportunity to talk a bit about how we see the policies, the planning, the data on energy efficiency, how it's important to have those sets and frameworks to design good policies. But now I will give you an example of something maybe smaller. So in Brazil, when we talk about policy, what we have in a law is the obligation for utilities to apply a small part of their net revenue in energy efficiency, and in energy efficiency, generally speaking. And from these resources, some of them are directed for policies that are coordinated by the Ministry of Mines and Energy, but a part of it is not directed, but the utilities may apply it themselves, but in projects that are then regulated by the Power Sector Regulatory Agency, where I work now. So in this case, we have a project that's looking into building, is investing in energy efficiency for public and non-profit hospitals. So we did a call for projects from 2022 to 2025. We selected 120 hospitals. And the idea is really to reduce electricity consumption in these hospitals. So what is being done with the money? So it's about 23 million euros in these 14 projects. So we are working with equipment replacement. So when we think about hospitals, we are talking about lights, air conditioning, oxygen plants, and etc. A lot of training and capacity building of the staff for efficient equipment and also for operation and maintenance of these equipments, and investments also in distributed generation for solar energy and other renewable sources. So this is what we are doing in these 3 years. And what are the results that we expect? We are expecting energy savings of about 38,000 megawatt hour a year. And also what is this equivalent to, this amount of energy savings? So it is equivalent to an annual energy consumption of a medium-sized city with 25,000 inhabitants in Brazil. So it's really something that we think it's small, but when we see the benefits, it's something very impressive. And then we see how we can gain from small policies like this, but in terms of reduction of energy consumption.
Right. No, thank you very much, Agnes, and it's really interesting to hear about the integration of efficiency measures with distributed generation in a single program. Let's move through the alphabet to Canada. Dean, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much for inviting me to be on the panel to talk about building renovation, a topic that's been very important in Canada and in lots of other countries, of course, as well. Canada's retrofit efforts have been constantly evolving, focusing on collaboration across different levels of government, on job creation, diversity and inclusion, and energy affordability. Building retrofits have been a key focus of Canada's efforts in the last few years. Since 2021, we have committed to investing over $6 billion to accelerate retrofits. One of our biggest programs in this area has been the Canada Greener Homes Grant, which was launched in 2021 to support Canadians in making their homes more energy efficient. Eligible homeowners can receive grants of up to $5,000 to make energy efficiency improvements, such as air sealing, upgrading windows and doors, and installing solar panels or heat pumps. And as of this month, we have helped over 212,000 Canadian households to retrofit their homes. The program has also supported over 75,000 jobs in the retrofit sector, including energy audits, construction, clean technology, and we've had dedicated recruitment programs targeting underrepresented groups in the sector. The success of the program told us that Canadians are keen to make their homes more energy efficient, but there are barriers to participation in the program. And for that reason, last year we launched the Oil to Heat Pump Affordability Program. This program helps low to medium income households move from heating oil to electric heat pumps through upfront grant payments. The program was initially launched early in 2023 and then enhanced in October of 2023 to further incentivize the transitioning off oil heating through reducing as many as possible the barriers to eligibility. The bottom line being that we want to make it as easy as possible for low-income Canadian households to participate in this program. The program also offers additional funding to households in provinces and territories that have agreed to combine their programs with ours. The idea being that we want to incentivize cooperation at the provincial and territorial level so that we can amass all of our efforts in a small number of large programs to maximize impact. The program offers more accessible application options, and we are collaborating with provinces and territories to include Indigenous participation to make sure that Indigenous households are able to participate. On a separate track, I would like to talk a little bit about Canada's Deep Retrofit Accelerator Initiative, the DRAI, which focuses on reducing existing barriers to deep retrofits and scaling up capacity in Canada's retrofit market in the large building sector. So these are commercial, institutional, and mid or high-rise residential buildings. The DRAI was funded for $185 million over about 3 years, and it supports retrofit accelerators in their work to bring together and coordinate retrofit actors, support building owners through the deep retrofit process, and drive market transformation. The program does not fund capital expenditures. They are not funding the retrofits themselves, but they cover expenses such as audits, business case development, and other professional services. The idea here is that we believe that there is a solid business case for doing deep retrofits. The players, the ecosystem just need the time and the space to make those cases, and that's what the program is doing. Canada has also been targeting retrofits through our building codes. We have developed new code requirements to address energy efficient alterations to existing buildings, and these will be released in 2025. We're continuing to invest in and provide benchmarking tools and energy performance to help building owners identify and target buildings in need of retrofit and to measure the results of those retrofits. Next month, we are anticipating the release of the Canada Green Building Strategy. It's going to focus on lowering home energy bills and reducing building emissions by supporting energy efficient retrofits, the adoption of better building codes, and promoting home energy labeling. The strategy will include a new Canada Greener Homes Affordability Program that will be focused on affordability for low-income households as well as reductions of energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. We're really proud of the progress that Canada has achieved in energy-efficient building retrofits and the benefits realized by Canadians so far, but we are very eager to learn from international partners to enhance our programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean, for that overview of some really interesting programs. The effort to include low-income households, I think, provides interesting experience that others may want to ask questions about. Not that I'm dropping hints. And the efforts to work across different stakeholder groups, as Mel alluded to, I think shows the importance of that approach. Let's now move to China, and I'll ask Mr. Yu, if you'd like to speak, please go ahead.
Thank you. Since 2007, Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development has gradually promoted the energy-saving retrofit of existing residential buildings in northern heating zones and hot summer and cold winter zones, organized the implementation of key cities construction to improve the energy efficiency of public buildings and achieved remarkable results. Firstly, continue to issue policies and clarify goals and tasks. 1. Design top-level policies and deploy key tasks. In order to implement the policies of carbon peaking and carbon neutrality in China, the implementation plan for carbon peaking in urban and rural construction, and the work plan for accelerating energy saving and carbon reduction in the building sector have been issued, and they make clear the key contents of energy saving retrofit for key energy using equipment such as air conditioners, lighting, and elevators, as well as external wall insulation, door and window retrofit. The indoor temperature of residential buildings that after the retrofit has generally increased by 3 to 5 centigrade in winter and decreased by 2 to 3 centigrade in summer, and the living environment has been significantly improved. 2. Play a leading role in planning and clear work objectives. Mahout has successfully issued 3 special plans for building energy saving for the 12th 5-year plan, 13th and 14th 5-year plan. This planning clearly defined the goals and tasks of the energy-saving retrofit in various periods. During the 14th five-year plan period, Mahut was proposed to improve the energy efficiency level of existing residential buildings and promote the energy saving and green retrofit of existing public buildings. Secondly, improve the standard system and upgrade the level of retrofit. 1. Comprehensively implementing technical standards for energy saving retrofit. Mahut has issued a number of national standards and the sector standards, such as the General Code for Energy Efficiency and the Renewable Energy Application in Buildings, which clearly stipulates the design, construction, acceptance, and operation management of energy-saving retrofit of existing buildings, and puts forward requirements such as energy-saving diagnosis, retrofit plan and content, the acceptance of energy efficiency building construction, and the comprehensive evaluation. A relatively complete standard system for energy-saving retrofit of existing buildings has formed in China. 2. Gradually from a technical system for energy-saving retrofit. It mainly includes the technologies for the building envelope, such as thermal insulation on walls, high-performance windows, external shading technologies, pitched roof, etc. The technologies for the building energy using system, such as variable air volume system, fresh air system, heating metering, high efficiency lamps, etc. The technologies for the renewable energy application in buildings, such as solar thermal technology, building integrated photovoltaic, and heat pump technology. Thirdly, carry out demonstration projects and improve the retrofit model. I'll give you 2 examples. First, promote the implementation of energy saving and thermal insulation projects in the city of Qingdao. Qingdao has issued some policies and local standards for energy saving and thermal insulation projects of existing residential buildings, established the market-oriented mechanism of retrofit first, reward later, explored the working model of government-led and market operation, and constructed an effective market-oriented implementation process. The enthusiasm of enterprises to invest and the residents to participate have effectively stimulated. The pressure on government financial funds has been eased, and the scale of retrofit has continued to increase. 2. Innovation, the energy saving and green retrofit model in the city of Chongqing. Chongqing has adopted the energy saving benefit sharing model to guide and promote the green retrofit of existing public buildings, and establishes a new model that supervision by construction management departments, organization by project owners, implementation by energy-saving service companies, verification by the third-party institutions, and the financing support by financial institutions. The energy-saving and green retrofit model improve the whole process supervision system that covering 5 stages, such as project declaration, implementation, acceptance, effector verification, and fund subsidies, and ensure the quality of project implementation and energy-saving effects. At present, the equipment renewal action in the construction field is implementing in China, and it will provide more support policies for thermal insulation on external walls, doors and windows, heating equipment, etc., and promote the sustainable development of energy-saving retrofit of existing buildings. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. A lot of really interesting things to unpack in there. The standards for retrofitting, I think, would be curious to hear more about how that process went forward and how those were developed. But let's now proceed to the case of Germany. So, Katharina, would you like to take the floor?
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity for exchange. I think I've spontaneously adjusted the outline of what I'm going to say today about 10,000 times. And after hearing the good examples on heating from Canada, I'm about to change it again. But no, I'm going to present a policy package on heating. It's not a single measure, but a package. But there is one of the three measures that I really feel is relevant not only to the countries from the north, where the main challenge is heating, but it can really also be adopted to the context of cooling. So I do believe it's relevant for the whole community. So let me very briefly introduce the heat policy package that we have it has just come into force this month, so I can't talk about all of the experiences, but it's a classic package. We have the regulation, the Buildings Energy Act, which has been retouched, and then we have a funding program, and then thirdly, this is what I will spontaneously focus on, is the Heat Planning Act. But yeah, let me start with the regulation, the strict stuff. So we have the Buildings Energy Act already for a while. It's been reviewed. It really is the framework for the transition to clean buildings through renewable heat at the one hand and strict efficiency standards for new and existing buildings. So it's really the classic two pillars of the energy transition. To be fair, the communication around that package wasn't ideal. The yellow press picked it up, saying that everything is just going to be more expensive, which was not ideal timing with energy prices already going up with the conflict in Ukraine. But the mix as a whole really is, bringing it on now. So there is the federal funding program for efficient buildings. Again, there has always been funding support, but this has been adjusted and upgraded, and now there is money for systemic renovations. It's really the focus to go and adjust the building stock both for residential and non-residential buildings, but there's also a small portion for individual renovation measures. And what I find particularly relevant here is that the funding program can be accessed by all types of carriers of investment. So it can be the private citizen homeowner who can get that money, but also associations, companies. There's something in it for all. And thirdly, what I feel is the most interesting bit today, to pick up on some of the ideas that I've been hearing over the past day and a half, really is the Heat Planning Act. When I first came across it, I thought it's not really super interesting. It sounds like a lot of bureaucracy. Basically, it's got two elements. There's the obligation that comes from the federal government to the local level to draw up heat plans. And secondly, there is an obligation to decarbonize the district heating until 2045, because that's by when we want to be climate neutral. Now, what are these heat plans? Basically, communities, municipalities have to analyze their heating stock and potentials. They really have to look at their communities and say, well, this is a densely populated area. It might be worthwhile to develop a network supply area, whereas this is a less densely populated area. Actually, the German housing stock, basically 2/3 are detached houses, so single-family houses, where they might be quite dispersed, so it might not be worthwhile everywhere. So every municipality really has to make this plan. It has to be drawn up within the next 2 years for cities larger than 100,000 inhabitants. Smaller cities and municipalities have more time, and there's also special cases for very small communities where they can have a simpler planning. But basically, what I feel really the opportunity is that within the next 2 to 4 years, every homeowner can look at a map and they can check, will I have access to a very efficient heating system, i.e. being connected to a system within the next 10 years, so I might not do anything about my heating system now, or will I not be part of this heating planning, so I can already take action now and use the money and install a heat pump, for instance, and do the retrofitting has to happen in any case. So I really think this is a good example of connecting, bringing it from really an example maybe of multi-level governance, where the federal government gets into interaction with the municipal level and really connect with the people. I think this is something I've heard, especially yesterday. I found the call from Nazra Nanda very inspiring, when she said, really talk to the people, don't just talk to the converted, and speak their language. So we already hear now that the municipalities say, well, we don't have the technical knowledge, why don't you do it at the national level? And the national level says, well, you know what you actually need locally, what happens there, so you do it, but we give you the support. There will be money for them. There is a competence center that has been set up for the municipalities to go back to understand what they have to do and get all the help they need to draw up these heat plans. So in conclusion, maybe 2 points. The policy package is always the magic, and really connect with the people, find a way that you have all levels of governance involved, and you make sure you talk to the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katarina. That's wonderful. And thanks for injecting a bit of magic into the proceedings. Let's move now to India. Reena, you have the floor.
Hello. Am I audible? Yes. Very good afternoon to all, and I would like to thank IE and Energy Efficiency Hub for having me here. To share my insights around the challenges and solutions that are associated with optimizing energy performance in buildings, as well as highlighting some successful policy frameworks and that the Indian government has laid down in some case studies. The objective was to transform the campus into an energy efficient grid interactive building. The approach was implementing retrofitting measures such as energy efficient heating, ventilators, and as well as air conditioning systems, LED lighting, advanced building automation systems were established, and all across the campus. And as on 2023, the Infosys campus had retrofitted over 25 million square feet of building space that they have in the campus, and also integrated renewable energy into the campus. They have already installed more than 60 megawatt of solar capacity, and as well as they have deployed energy management systems to be able to manage the energy well, that integrates to the grid and provides support to the grid at the time of peak. And lastly, this energy storage systems were also implemented, and to the tune of 20 megawatt hour battery storage was capacity was introduced, and which again provided saved the energy at the time of solar, and providing back to the grid at the time of peak time that the grid was facing. So challenges that were faced during the implementation were to ensure the seamless integration of so many different aspects that they wanted to introduce, managing different intermittent nature of renewable energy, optimizing the load management without disrupting the operations. And again, the results were immense. The annual reduction of close to 30% of energy consumption, providing grid stability with the backup that was created, and reduced power consumption during peak. And lastly, carbon footprint reduction of close to 80,000 metric tons of CO2 annually was achieved with this. So thank you. That's all from my side for now.
Thank you, Rena, for those fascinating case studies, the grid interactivity of an entire campus with renewables, with storage, with efficient equipment. It sounds like there's a lot to be excavated and understood there. Also interested in the first example and the integration of monitoring and verification. That seems like a really important aspect. Let's now move to Kenya. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonathan. I want to present a pilot project that we are doing in Kenya. It is on a pilot school lighting project where we got this idea as a quick win event or action from our National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Strategy, where we, after doing the implementation plan in 2020 and started working on energy efficiency, we picked on this as a pilot to learn from it, to see what we can do with it. And to get information and to be able to plan, we decided to do a pilot where we wanted to bring stakeholders together in the sector and then approach there where we would learn and get our information for our planning. We had an idea of going to public buildings, but we targeted now secondary schools, boarding secondary schools for effectiveness. And there was a problem that we noticed in the schools. One of them was there was little awareness on energy efficiency in schools, both for the students, the teachers, and the workers in schools. We also were aware that they were complaining that energy bills or electricity bills were high. And then we were also noticing that most of the infrastructure in these buildings in the schools were aging. So we were almost suspecting that most likely the high bills was a result of the aging infrastructure. So we wanted to see. So we set our objectives as one, to build a business case where we have a problem, we are looking for a solution, and we are testing whether we can work together in a holistic manner and approach resource mobilization together. Creating awareness was another objective of the pilot, and of course reducing the bills, and then present a baseline for future interventions at the end of it to reduce carbon footprint. We approached several partners. Key to this was UNEP, CCC, Sustainable Energy for All, Kenya Green Building Society, our regulator, EPRA, and other sector players in the country, together with the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Environment and Education. So we selected 100 schools, and through that we went through and did a simple audit to get that baseline report, and then we approached Signify Foundation through the efforts of UNEP, CCC, to facilitate some procurement for LED bulbs and other fittings to retrofit if we found there was need for the same. So through this, we also developed a knowledge pack that as we do the retrofitting, we'll be getting to the students and trying to create awareness, to teach them and continue propagating energy efficiency in buildings, in schools, change of behavior for energy conservation also. We aim at doing this, we aim at conserving about 885 megawatts of megawatt hours of power. We also expect to cut costs of electricity bills by 28 million shillings, and we also expect to cut down our emissions by 400 metric tons of CO2. Our future plan is, after we get the baseline, then we do the information that we see from the recommendations of this report, retrofit what is required. We've realized after going there are numerous reasons why these bills are high. We want to change the old traditional bulbs that we find in these schools because we found they were there. And then moving forward, we want now to use this information to test an approach of financing model which has been there in India. We learned from them. We want to try it here, a super ESCO model of handling financing, sourcing financing, and approaching energy efficiency, retrofitting, especially for old buildings in the country. We have many public buildings in terms of hospitals, county government offices, national government offices, and after this, then we aim to move forward and approach willing partners to retrofit all the boarding schools in the country. This is going to be exciting. Welcome.
Great. Thank you very much, David. And good luck with applying the lessons from the pilot to the scaled up program. Since you waited so long to speak, I'll give you the benefit of asking the first question of your other panelists. Do you have anything in mind for any one of them?
Okay, yeah, being an emerging country economically, we learn from our peers. After learning from India, I had a chance of visiting, and I was learning that you can do minimum energy performance standards for buildings. Yet here we are struggling as a country to do minimum energy performance for appliances, refrigerators. Now, going forward, that's going to be a challenge, and we will still need to know how you have managed to infiltrate the architects, the planners, to inbuild what you've done as a plan to action, and how you collaborate with others, especially you in India, and what can we learn? And then after we learn, how can we help South-South learning process to influence our neighbors and others that can be influenced by these learnings?
Thank you for the question, and I did I highlighted during my previous speech that of course government was finding it difficult to ensure that the buildings are following the building codes, and how one of the state governments came forward and ensured with different measures that the building codes are followed in the state. But as you said, which are the different measures, or which are the different actors who can play a key role in bringing the efficiency, even though the building standards are there, but how do you ensure and how do you create the ecosystem to be able to take it forward, and how the learnings can help. So I would in that aspect I would like to highlight in India to create that ecosystem, our government worked on different measures, such as bringing some partners together through creating some public-private partnerships. Again, this partnerships were the private sector was brought in to be able to have the right energy efficient equipments available, and subsidizing that so that the building owners don't find the initial investment cost very high. So, and different further programs under which subsidies were given to different through different models to the building owners. And another, like you mentioned, regarding ESCO. So, energy service companies were brought in to help with the initial investments. That is, of course, is always whenever you're introducing a new a model, that is something, the financing is something that always is a hindrance. So, we need to have the innovative models. So, ESCOs are also brought in to support that, but of course, they earn from the energy savings they can bring in after the initial investments, but of course, it's currently is not as lucrative, but I think going forward, when we have more not only energy efficient buildings, but also grid interactive buildings, they will be able to recover the initial investments much faster. So, we need good financial investment incentives for people ESCOs to come forward and invest in that. Also, another aspect which the government has come forward is introduction of the green bonds for the buildings. So, building owners, they can get green bonds which will, some of the corporates, they have some green obligations obligations that they have undertaken. So these green bonds with the energy efficiency they've brought into the system, they can they can earn that and get more tax incentives through that. That is another scheme which has really helped uptake, and also some credit guarantee mechanisms have been introduced. Implementation of these guarantee schemes to help reduce the financial risk of the private players who are coming in to support the initial investments and take the initiative forward has also worked very well for uptake of the greening and efficient buildings in India. Thank you.
Well, that is a high pressure sharing of lessons there. Wonderful. Well, let's hop back to the beginning. Agnes, do you have a question that you'd like to ask of one of the other speakers?
Hello. So I don't have a question, but I loved your example of a policy or package of policies, but that links planning to orient, I think, what communities and then the individuals can do. So I think it's always something that we can learn from when we think about countries that are like federations with states and municipalities. So how to give the big incentives for people to move towards a policy. So I would think it was a very nice experience to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Agnes. And so, Dean, what about you? Do you have any questions or comments or observations that you'd like to share?
I have a question for my German colleague. Certainly a big part of your story was about the interaction between the different levels. My perception is that in a German context, it has the potential to be very complicated, because you've got the European Commission, you've got the German federal government, you've got the state governments, you've got the local governments. And so my question would be, what experience do you have, what advice can you share about dealing with the conflicts or the potential opportunities of working between those different levels of government?
Well, good question. Thank you. Well, maybe I can really come from my personal experience, because it's going to be hard to give a German perspective. From a personal perspective, when I look back at what I've been doing as a civil servant, I started in the Ministry for the Environment, and I remember a lot of events that were hosted usually by the federal level, so by us, where we really had these communication moments to bring exactly all these layers together, the federal layer, then the Länder, so the states, and then municipalities. And to be honest, this is a lot of work, and I think it's necessary and it's important to get everyone on board and understand each one's perspective, but I'm not entirely sure. I think this traction really is necessary for other things to then happen. I can't say there are direct, amazing effects that I could see from the specific talking moments. Whereas here, with this act that I've presented, I think it's slightly different because it's turning things around. So you've got the federal level that makes this law, so it's an act. You have to make these. But looking back, and this is maybe what comes out of decades of having all these formats of talking to each other, which often feels like, we're shouting at each other, but we're not really moving forward. But it has created, in the long run, a understanding for each other that this act doesn't just come as an act saying you're going to sort yourselves out there locally, but it comes as a package. So we're also providing federal funding, because often if the obligation for the implementation is at the local level, that means that also the money has to come from the local level. So now here we have this federal funding package, and then really importantly we have this support entity that has been created right away, which also costs a lot of resources, but also is equipped with people from all levels. So this competence center, which is headed by organized by the DENA, which is our head of delegation, Corinna, who has been on this panel yesterday. So I would say there's two sides to it. The communication, which can sometimes be tiring, but it brings about then a real understanding where you give each other the resources to do what you can do best. And I hope in 2 years' time I can really present you this map of Germany with all the things really emerging, but I can't promise it yet.
Thanks. Well, it definitely gives a sense that policy packages don't happen by themselves. They're not created out of thin air. Mr. Yu, I think you had a question.
Okay, thank you. I think I want to ask the colleagues of Canada a question. How to mobilize private sector funds to complete outlays of public funds? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very tricky question about how to mobilize the private sector funds. I guess the answer, I think we don't know the answer, but two partial answers. In the case of homes, one of the ways of doing this is by offering incentives. Our experience through the Greener Homes Grant is that by offering relatively small incentives, you could encourage people to take the step of making larger investments. And so then you're able, the easiest thing to do today is the same thing that you did yesterday. So we don't necessarily know how to do the deep retrofits. We don't have the opportunity to learn from others about how to do deep retrofits. And so the deep retrofits don't happen. But by introducing this initiative, we're giving people a little bit of, we're giving people fun.
Looking forward to hearing more about the Deep Retrofit Accelerator. I think it could also help to produce maps of where those district heating pipes are going to be running. You know, that's like putting a metro line and housing prices then shoot up. So, Katerina, we've got, and Rena, we have about 4 or 5 minutes left. Katerina, do you have a question that you'd like to ask?
Well, yes, if I may, maybe particularly to the Kenyan, but also maybe Indian and Brazilian colleagues, if someone has insights, whether you're already thinking of sort of zooming out a step. We've got these COP28 decisions, now we're in the middle of how can we operationalize this. Are you currently working on your NDCs, and how are you thinking of building these examples or energy efficiency activities into your NDCs, your nationally determined contributions? Is that something you're working on? Because to me it still feels very abstract, and I would be curious to hear.
Well,
so any...
Well, that is tricky, but we are approaching that wholesome, because every sector must play. Transport sector must play a role in the reduction of NDCs and buildings, appliances, utilities. So we want to approach all these and other sectors like agriculture. So in Kenya, we are trying to do an all-government approach where we sit together, analyze what we are doing, and we now would wish to do a lot of efforts towards measurements and the verification of data, so that we can say, yes, we are moving, we are saving, and then that data is accurate to some extent. Then we can say, we are all of us aiming at a reduction of that 32%. So one sector we find is tricky. We can say just buildings or transport. But all of us, we are sitting together, we are looking for means and ways of sitting together to see how to approach our efforts to reduce carbon emissions.
In our case, it's a bit similar. In fact, we have what we call economy-wide NDC, so not really sectoralized yet. But there is a lot of discussions going on in Brazil on that, and also about carbon markets and the roles of each sectors in the carbon markets. But what I can say about energy efficiency is that in Brazil, the energy sector is accounted for only, I think, 19% of the emissions. So it's not that much. compared to other countries. But what we have in the energy sector in Brazil is really a good planning of the sector. So we have an energy research office who does indicative expansion plannings in looking 10 years and 30 years ahead. So there is where we can see more or less how energy efficiency is accounting for reduction of consumption or reduction of expansion and also reduction of emissions. So I think if the country evolves fast in detailing the NDCs in terms of sectors, we will soon be able to have the data for it.
Thanks very much, both of you. Rena, the last question?
No, I just wanted to add to what my colleague has asked. So just to give an update on the Paris Agreement that India had signed for, in terms of the target that the government has set for renewable energy uptake of Indian sector, we have, I'm very happy to share that we have already achieved that by in 2022 itself. Though, so our government has increased the target and for 2047 and we are looking forward to a complete net zero power sector by 2070. So I'm very happy that we not only the government set the target, but many initiatives have been undertaken to ensure that we are moving towards that at a very fast pace. In fact, just highlighting one initiative which has been recently undertaken by the government for uptake of going forward for the net zero and bringing all the efficiency into the sector is another scheme called Surya Urja scheme, where they have given huge subsidy for solar rooftop installations from 1 kilowatt to 2 kilowatt and up to 3 kilowatt, and the government has received registrations to close to 10 million requests have come already from different parts of the country, and we are looking forward to if we are able to implement the numbers we are talking about. I think it's going to be a very, very different sector, and we'll have to look at energy efficiency and the net zero that we've been looking forward to in a very different way, and of course work towards strengthening of grid to be able to manage that kind of integration of renewables that we are looking forward to with this scheme. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Rena. And keeping up with the theme of magic, we've reached the witching hour where we need to close. So a lot of different lessons and ideas have been teased out that clearly share commonalities across all 6 countries. What we normally do with the Hub's workshops is to produce a written summary. So what I'd propose to do is, instead of trying to synthesize everything here in 15 seconds, that we produce a brief summary, share it with you, and then post it on our website so that everyone who wishes to can benefit from today's session. So David, Rena, Katerina, Agnes, Dean, Shanshan, thank you very much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and hope the conversation continues. Okay. Thank you all for joining online too. Bye.